Have you ever wondered why some people pull away from you just when you start setting boundaries? Why do friendships of years fade when you finally prioritize your well-being? It's not a coincidence. It's a deep psychological pattern that Carl Jung discovered nearly a century ago. I've studied Jung for years, and today I'm going to reveal an uncomfortable but liberating truth. People reject those who don't validate them. Once you understand why this happens, your life will change forever. Think about it. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How often have you sacrificed your needs to keep the peace or avoid upsetting others? Jung understood that this pattern isn't random. It's a manifestation of what he called the persona, the mask we create to be accepted by society. Most people are strangers not only to others, but to themselves, Jung said. And he was right. We're so disconnected from our true selves that when we dare to be authentic, the world around us seems to crumble. Let me share a story that might resonate with you. Years ago, a patient of Jung's, let's call her Maria, decided after decades of pleasing everyone to finally say no to her family's excessive demands. What happened? Her mother spread rumors about her siblings excluded her from family gatherings, and even her childhood best friends started pulling away. Maria couldn't understand why setting healthy boundaries caused such rejection. What she was experiencing, and maybe you are too, is what Jung called the collapse of projection. When you stop being the container for others' projections, when you stop validating their expectations of who you should be, they go into crisis. It's not about you, it's about them. The real question is, are you willing to be rejected for being who you truly are? Or would you rather be accepted for who you're not? Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. This awakening can be painful because you'll see clearly how people around you have been relating not to you, but to the image they project onto you. Here's what really happens when people reject you for not validating their expectations. Jung saw it as an interrupted individuation process, where the person rejecting you hasn't done the inner work to integrate their own shadow, the parts of themselves they deny. When you set boundaries and value yourself, you unconsciously trigger their shadow, showing them a mirror of what they're afraid to do. Have you noticed that the people who criticize your change the most are often the ones who need to change the most? It's no coincidence. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Imagine you've spent years being the emotional support for a friend, always available, answering their calls at any hour, putting your plans on hold. One day you realize this dynamic is draining you. You kindly tell them you need balance, that you need support and space too. Suddenly this friend starts bad-mouthing you, calling you selfish or saying you've changed. What's really happening is you've stopped validating their unspoken right to your unconditional availability. You've stopped feeding their shadow, the part of them that doesn't know how to be alone or give instead of just take. Jung would say this friend is facing the dark night of the soul, a moment when they're forced to confront uncomfortable parts of themselves. But instead of doing that inner work, it's easier to project blame outward and reject you. Here's the liberating truth. Letting yourself be rejected for being authentic is one of the bravest acts you can perform. It's the price of your psychological freedom. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Jung said. But that privilege comes with a cost. Not everyone will celebrate your authenticity. Some will fear it because it challenges their conformity. Think about your relationships right now. How many are based on honest exchanges between two people showing their true selves? And how many are held together by unspoken roles, expectations, or an invisible contract that says, I accept you as long as you validate my worldview? Jung taught that a true encounter between two people only happens when both dare to remove their masks. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. But when someone is more committed to their mask than their truth, they'll choose to walk away rather than transform. Modern cancellation is just a contemporary version of an ancient pattern Jung identified. The rejection of someone who dares to individuate, to break away from collective thinking. Jung himself experienced this when he questioned his mentor, Sigmund Freud. The psychoanalytic circle of the time excluded him, discredited him, tried to silence him. Why? Because Jung refused to validate a view of the human psyche he found incomplete. He insisted we are more than our wounds. We're also our aspirations, symbols, and connection to something transcendent. That rejection and period of isolation allowed Jung to develop his analytical psychology, which helps us understand ourselves better today. By the way, my book is now available, full of tips and techniques to overcome emotional blocks and love yourself more. Find the link in the description and pinned comment. Now let's continue. Sometimes being rejected is the start of your greatest contribution to the world. How do we apply this understanding to daily life? Jung offers some keys. First, recognize that rejection for being authentic isn't punishment, it's information. It shows you who was relating to your mask, not you. Second, understand that individuation, becoming your true self, requires separation. You can't become whole without challenging collective expectations. Third, know that your authenticity is a gift to the world, even if it's not always received as such. Jung believed the world is transformed not by actions, but by revelations. Your authenticity is one of those revelations. To you, listening right now, maybe alone, maybe feeling the sting of rejection for daring to set boundaries or value yourself, know this. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's a rite of passage. Jung would call it a symbolic death, where one version of you must die for your true self to emerge. It's scary, and the loneliness can be overwhelming. But Jung also taught that loneliness doesn't come from having no one around, but from being unable to communicate what matters to you. As you dare to speak your truth, you'll eventually find those who can receive it. The great paradox Jung discovered is that only when you're willing to lose relationships by being authentic do you attract relationships based on authenticity. Only when you stop needing others' validation do you begin to validate yourself. That self-acceptance is magnetic, drawing in those on their own journey of self-discovery. Think of your deepest, most meaningful relationships. Aren't they the ones where you can be fully yourself, without masking your emotions or pretending to be someone else? Jung would say those relationships are precious because they allow mutual growth through shared authenticity. Choosing yourself doesn't mean becoming narcissistic or disconnecting from social responsibility. Jung was clear that true individuation leads to a deeper connection with humanity, not isolation. The more you become aware of your individuality, the more you connect with the collective soul, he said. The difference is you no longer merge unconsciously with the collective. You relate to it consciously from your authentic center. When you stop seeking external validation and start validating yourself, something magical happens. Jung called it synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that bring people and opportunities aligned with your true self. Suddenly, people appear who value the very things others rejected in you. Opportunities arise that let you express the gifts you once had to suppress. It's not magic. It's the result of aligning with your essential nature. Consider Jung's patient, a man who spent his life pleasing his father as a successful businessman, suppressing his passion for music. When he finally left the corporate world to pursue art, his father disowned him and stopped speaking to him. But during that period of rejection, he found his true community among artists, met the love of his life, and built a music career that touched thousands. What seemed like a devastating loss was the doorway to his authentic destiny. Jung would say there's a greater intelligence at work in our lives, the self, the organizing center of the psyche that pushes us toward wholeness, even through rejection and pain. Being rejected for not validating others' expectations can be a disguised gift. That relationship that ended when you set boundaries, was it truly nourishing your soul, or did you have to shrink yourself to be accepted? Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. Maybe what you called rejection was your psyche freeing you from patterns that no longer served you. If you're going through this painful separation, here are some Jungian tools to navigate it. First, acknowledge that your pain is real and valid. Jung never minimized human suffering. Second, ask yourself, what part of me is being freed through this rejection? What authenticity was suppressed in this relationship? Third, pay attention to the symbols and dreams that arise now. Jung believed our unconscious speaks through symbolic images, especially during transformation. Your dreams may show a path your conscious mind can't yet see. Fourth, Remember, this process isn't just about loss. It's about gaining your authenticity, integrity, and connection to your true self. I've been there myself. After years of following a path others set for me, I dared to listen to my inner voice. I set clear boundaries, left draining relationships, and quit a prestigious job that was consuming my soul. The reaction was immediate. Lifelong friends vanished, family criticized me, colleagues spread rumors. For months, the loneliness was crushing. I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if I should go back just to feel belonging again. But something, Jung's self, kept me steady. Slowly, something extraordinary happened. New people entered my life who valued the parts of me others rejected. Opportunities appeared I couldn't have imagined. Most importantly, I found an inner peace no external approval could ever give. Jung would say this wasn't coincidence. It was the natural result of aligning with my essential truth. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, Jung said. Those who reject you for setting healthy boundaries were never your true allies. They were allied with a version of you that sacrificed itself to keep them comfortable. Jung understood that self-acceptance is the core of the moral problem and the pinnacle of a whole life's vision. When you fully accept yourself, you no longer need the approval of those who can only relate to a fragmented version of you. Here's a direct question. Where in your life are you suppressing your authenticity out of fear of rejection? What truths are you silencing? What boundaries do you need to set? Reflect honestly, because as Jung reminded us, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. You might worry that being fully authentic will cost you important relationships. You might be right. Jung never promised individuation would be lossless, but what you gain, your integrity, personal power, and connection to your essence, is worth infinitely more than what you lose. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases, Jung said. Your path of individuation is unique, and so are the losses you'll face. But beyond those losses is a freedom you can't imagine until you experience it. Not everyone will reject you for being authentic. Some will be inspired, finding in your courage permission to be authentic themselves. Jung noted that the world may resist your individuality at first, but will adapt to it over time. Your authenticity might be exactly what someone else needs to witness to find their own. Jung understood that our individuation is never just for us. It's our deepest contribution to the collective awakening. So the next time you feel the pain of rejection for not validating others' expectations, remember Jung's words. I am what I choose to be. In that choice to be authentic, even in the face of rejection, lies your true power. As Jung taught, your vision only becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens? Are you ready to awaken, even if it means some prefer to keep dreaming without you? If this message resonated, share it with someone facing the same process of rejection for daring to be authentic. Sometimes in our darkest moments, we just need to know we're not alone, that others have walked this path and found light on the other side. Leave a comment sharing your experience with this phenomenon. Have you been rejected for setting boundaries or being authentic? What did you discover? Your story might be what someone else needs to read today. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications. Each week, we explore the depths of the human psyche, learning from masters like Jung to navigate this journey called life. Being rejected for not validating others' expectations isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your true life. As Jung taught, I cannot define for another what health, maturity, or self-realization is. Each individual has their own goal, and only they can say if they've reached it. Your path is yours alone. Dare to walk it your way, even when others don't understand. The only validation you truly need is your own.